Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about taking a land-based trip to the Galapagos. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, there's two ways you can tour the Galapagos. You can do what's more, I guess, the traditional way. You can get on a cruise ship and cruise around to the various different islands. That does have the advantage of being able to get you out to some of the not populated islands that you can't get to on a land-based tour, but it is probably going to be very much more expensive, especially if you're going to those further away islands. So the way I did my tour, and the way I recommend you consider doing yours if you're on a budget, is to do what's called a land-based tour. Basically, you're going to fly into the island of Santa Cruz, and you're going to go from there to basically different tours and walks. The island I'm going to be discussing today is Isabella. So to get to Isabella, you do have to fly into Santa Cruz first. Then you're going to take a water taxi from there out to the Isabella Island, which is it's a less sparsely populated island, so it's the town there is much smaller. But there's some interesting things to do there, and there's some animals that you can only see there and not on Santa Cruz itself, so it's well worth doing. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get checked into your hotel. Some of the hotels, at least mine, offered like wetsuit rental and things like that. I would probably bring your own snorkeling gear just for sanitary reasons. But the town is really nice, and even in the harbor itself, you'll start seeing animals. If you are just on a water taxi or something, they're just in the harbor itself, you'll start seeing rays and marine turtles, and you'll see sea lions sleeping in the boats. So the harbor itself is pretty good. You know, you could even pay someone to take you on a short tour around there if you're not going on one of the longer snorkeling tours. But I would highly recommend going out on one of the snorkeling tours because there's excellent snorkeling around the area of Isabella. There's also a small snorkeling spot right next to the harbor. I don't really recommend that one as much because I didn't see much there. Other people saw a little bit more, I think, but I think you're going to have much better luck going out to one of the further snorkeling spots. That little spot in town could work though if if for some reason you're not going to be able to go out on a tour, if you get boat sickness or something. So while I mentioned tours are a great option while you're on Isabella, you can also do a certain amount of independent travel around the island too, and you can do that by foot. There's quite a number of things within walking distance. The one of the most interesting activities I think is to walk to what's called the town lagoons. They've built some little bridges around a wetland area there. When you first walk up, you'll notice there's a lot of marine iguanas there, but you'll also see different types of wading birds. And it was the one place on, I think, maybe the whole trip that I saw flamingos. The town lagoon doesn't take very long to walk around, so that you could probably do in just, maybe an hour or two. Once you finish that, you'll want to take a walk out to what's called the Wall of Tears. The Wall of Tears itself might be interesting from a historical standpoint, but the more interesting thing about it is on the way out, you'll see tortoises just along the side of the road. And if you continue past the Wall of Tears, you can also go out to a lookout where you have a scenic lookout. So besides the Wall of Tears, the other place I would recommend walking is taking a walk out to the tortoise breeding facility. The facility itself is kind of interesting. You can see that the turtles that they're breeding and releasing there. You can also see um, lots of lava lizards around that little area. But the real reason I recommend taking a walk out there is that was the one place on Isabella I was able to see the Galapagos Hawks, and I saw several of them. I saw some, there was sort of a big green metal thing, maybe a water treatment facility or something. I saw a couple at distance there, but as on the walk back, I was able to see some up closer. So that's a endemic species to the Galapagos hawk, and that's a good place to see them. The next place I'm going to discuss is called Las Tentares. You'll need to go on a tour to see this, even though it's only a short distance from the island itself. But basically, you'll go out to another small island, and there's a channel of water inside there, a very shallow channel of water that the reef sharks like to hang out in. You can see them very closely, and there's a lot of them. It's a really interesting place. The other thing about the trip is you'll go past an area where the Galapagos penguins tend to hide out and or hang out. And also, you'll probably see some bluefoot boobies there. On the island itself, you'll probably see marine iguanas, sea lions, and possibly other birds. Most of the tours to Las Tentares will also include a snorkeling component, and I recommend you do that, particularly if you're not going to go out to the tunnels, because the snorkeling spot is actually quite a bit better than the one in town. We were able to see turtles, fish, rays. I think someone saw a reef shark closer to the shore. So it's a pretty good snorkeling spot and definitely worth spending a few extra minutes or maybe an hour or two to go out to that snorkeling spot and look around there. As good of a snorkeling spot as it is, though, what I highly recommend you do is go out to Lost Tunnels, which you can book through the Isabella dive shop at the beginning of the town. The tunnels are a further trip, but the snorkeling there is even better, and there's a lot to see on the way out, as I'll explain. On the boat ride out, you're going to drive past huge flocks of seabirds. I mean, almost unbelievably massive schools of these seabirds that are out fishing on the ocean. You'll probably also see manta rays. If you've never seen a manta ray before, it's unbelievable how large they are. Keep your eye out for turtles as well. I was able to see this pair of turtles breeding and was able to watch them for a couple of minutes. You'll go past a large rock that has a different type of booby bird on it. These are the Nazca boobies. As you're coming into the tunnels themselves, you'll notice the scenery is beautiful with the tunnels and arches, but also keep an eye out for fur seals and more turtles. And finally, if you haven't gotten a chance to get a good look at a bluefoot booby on your trip yet, you should be able to here. So that's all I have for Isabella. I hope you'll consider taking a trip there. It's a really great place.